Welcome to all our viewers watching live. Citizens for Lucknow brings to you Mira Nair in a freewheeling chat with Adity Chakravarti and Iqbal Kidwai about how our city of Lucknow fit her vision of Brahmapur from Vikram Seth's epic novel, A Suitable Boy, which is airing now on BBC and now on Netflix. Those of you who've watched the period drama have seen the treasure trove of old Lucknow havelis and absolutely stunning, wanderlust-inducing period landmarks, which has brought all of us Lucknowwalas much delight. Welcome back to Lucknow, Mira. We are so glad that you have graciously given us your time at what must be an early hour for you, New York. Congratulations on your son Zohran's win in the election in New York.
Oh,
you must be so proud of him.
Yes, thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here and be back in Lucknow. Actually, I woke up dreaming of Lebua, where I lived for many, many months. And
Wow.
and I'm very pleased to see my old friends and new friends in Lucknow.
Yeah. So Mira, of course, needs no introduction. She is an activist, filmmaker, Padma Bhushan awardee, Oscar nominee, BAFTA winner with many amazing films to her credit. It's a personal journey from Rourkela to Delhi to Harvard and then the world stage that is truly awe-inspiring. Interviewing Mira today is Adity Chakravarti, an artist, lifestyle blogger, and author. She's the founder and active participant of a citizens initiative, Citizens for Lucknow, that works towards conserving the city's heritage and environment. Joining her today is Iqbal Kidwai, longtime resident of Lucknow. He's worked with Mira in a couple of her films, including A Suitable Boy. A little about us. We, that is the citizens of Lucknow, are a group of like-minded people who have come together to influence, to rally for support, and to actively push for heritage restoration, and to try to salvage what is left of old heritage buildings of Lucknow. We feel that without active citizen involvement and push, we will continue to lose what is left of our heritage buildings. We've been conducting heritage walks to several places in the past year before the pandemic forced us indoors. We are now reaching out to people through online conversations on heritage, which are broadcast live and available to a large audience. So some requests for our audience watching live. Please write your questions for Mira in the comments section of the FB Live video, and we'll try and pick up a few from there for Mira to respond to. If any of you would like to throw a live FB watch party so your friends could watch along with you, that would be great too. So over to you, Mira, Adity, and Iqbal. We'll be there in the studio behind should you need us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mona.
Yeah, thanks. So, Mira, so lovely to have you here after, I think you finished shooting in the month of December?
Yeah, December 17th.
Right, last year.
2019, yeah.
I know, and it's all over. And while you were here, it was like a huge mela. हम तो कहते हैं शादी का घर था, you know, with everybody rushing off, and there was this buzz in Lucknow when you were here shooting. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, about your journey to making this series. How did it start? I mean, did you always have this in mind that I will make A Suitable Boy into a series? Tell us about this.
Well, I loved the novel, Vikram's wonderful epic, Suitable Boy, pretty much since the day it was written and out in the world in 1993, if I recall. And I loved it. I read it twice, which is saying something, you know, because it's such a tome. It's a doorstopper of a novel. But I really felt that it had captured with such elan and with such wit and truth and humanity that era of the 50s in India, an era I wished I was born in. It was the same year, 1950, that my parents got married, and in that spirit of Nehruvian socialism, it was about a real secular India. So my parents, both from the Punjab, were, my father was in the administrative service, and he was asked to go as far from his native place to serve, and he was chosen for Orissa. And I was born in Orissa in 1957. But this era of the early 50s was one I wished I had been born in, because it was the time that we were creating India, the free India from the British, and it was an idealistic time, a very high-minded, in the sense of the idealism and the creation of our country. So I think Vikram Seth, just captured it with such idiosyncrasy and love and humor. These four largely elite families across northern India, and their interaction, and basically creating the first democratic elections that the country had seen. So for me, I loved it. For me, the book was like a best friend. I wished it never would end. But then I 93, I thought it was too big for me to make into a film, or there was no question of TV series those days. So instead, inspired by Suitable Boy, I decided to make a microcosmic version of my own that I could do, which turned out to be Monsoon Wedding, my little film that became very big, in the year 2000. And but but Suitable Boy was always with me. I know several people had tried to make TV series in BBC, I think in Granada or this or that, but it never came to pass, and I was not involved with those. But 3 years ago, I heard that they were starting again, and this time I just phoned up the BBC and the Lookout Point, the production company that was doing it in England, and I just said, I had to throw my churidars in the ring, because in my heart of hearts, I just thought anybody but a Gora should make this film. Like it cannot be made by somebody outside this outside the subcontinental ethos and knowledge and love, and the 8 draft, it was 8 hours at that time, had already been distilled into a screenplay by Andrew Davies, who is very well known for doing the large novels, Les Miserables, War and Peace, and so on. So I already inherited a structure that was done by Andrew and gang. And then as things happened, and as money came and money went, because it took 3 years to really finally make the film and finish it, then we had to reduce it further to 6 hours, because life in the Western world is still thinks that to make a subcontinental epic with subcontinental actors is a radical act, and it isn't. It's simply who we are, but it is the way that money works sometimes, even though the will and the passion to make it was very great. So that's how they immediately, they loved my work, and they said there was no question of another director at that time. I mean, at any time. And so I stepped in, and in 2018 January is when I began working on Suitable Boy, but we shot in August 2019. So it took about almost more than a year and a half to cast, to finance, to shape the 6 hours, to battle for several things, and to put it all together. So it's a long time coming, these things, that the elaborate period, and to make a film in India anywhere in the period that we were in 1950s was a real challenge, because modern mayhem of India is so total that to sift through it is not easy. But I think, like a filmmaker, I think not like television. For me, the epic frame, the layers of the frame, the depth within it, just to have a sense of reality was very important. So it was a massive, what can I say, a period job, in the sense of just making sure. Anyway, I can go into it in the costumes and palette, in removing hoardings and taking away just the
mess
of modern
India.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the mess.
Yeah.
That you find in every single street.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I know to remove that would have been such a challenge.
Yeah.
For our viewers, I think still there are many people who don't know probably that the series was shot almost entirely in Lucknow, including the scenes, the Calcutta scenes that you see. I saw that in some review somewhere in a newspaper which said that, it was shot in Calcutta, Banaras, Lucknow. So I said, no, it was shot
entirely.
And Maheshwar, I think.
Lucknow, Kanpur, and Maheshwar.
Lucknow, Kanpur, and Maheshwar. Yeah, Kanpur also. I know all the shoes.
Yes.
Leather signs, yes. So now coming to Lucknow, because it was shot in Lucknow, how did you home into Lucknow? Why did you think that this Brahmapur, this place which is in Seth's novel, that Lucknow would suit it? Why this?
Um, Number one, I had come to Lucknow a few times, but several known, like I remember those times. Since I was 8 years old, my uncle and aunt lived in Lucknow. He ran Union Carbide in Lucknow, and from the age of 8 years old, we would be shipped off to them for summer holidays. So I knew Lucknow as a child. I knew Lucknow as rickshaws and monkeys and the residency, and अजीब अजीब चीजें जैसे the Rumi Gate, things like that. But I also knew it felt like a small town in a beautiful 50s fashion, like in the kind of town I also grew up in Bhubaneswar, in Orissa. Bungalows, asphalt roads, and those same kind of colonial 8x5 type bungalows that I grew up in. In any case, for me, I knew that Vikram Seth had actually written a large part of Suitable Boy in Lucknow at the Mahmudabad house. And the family of Mahmudabad, Vijay and Suleiman, are also old friends of mine. And so I wanted to, they had always invited me. And finally, I went to Mahmudabad. And it just is so resplendent and so spoke to us so deeply and clearly of that time. And it was also a great joy to me that Vikram had actually was inspired by the same thing and wrote there. So the story of the Nawab of Betar is quite inspired by Suleiman's story also. And so that was the one point of center, was the Mahmudabad estate, both the Killa outside Lucknow and the Kaiserbagh house. That was the starting point. But then, economics being what they are in movies, we had all these different locations in the story, Calcutta, Lucknow, Banaras, and so on. And Lucknow gave us so much of many different parts of this story, so that we couldn't actually afford to move such a large unit. We had 600 people in our unit, to move to Calcutta or to move, and we managed Kanpur as a second unit that was directed largely by Shimit Amin, a wonderful director and a great friend of mine, who was always with us, and he did the Kanpur. And Kanpur is actually, as you know, the center of the tanneries, the center of the shoe business. And we met this extraordinary individual who gave us his factories and who was, let us into that whole world. And that's 2 hours away from Lucknow, and it could be managed. But to integrate within Lucknow, Calcutta was a big challenge. And also because I grew up in Calcutta 12 years, and I know it, and I also know one thing, which is in Calcutta, it's very hard to find that old Calcutta from 50s. Very hard, almost impossible, because again, it's all changed. It's all transformed. As I call it, my slang is, it's all period buggered. So, but we found this extraordinary chalk in Lucknow, in Kanpur, which felt like. Not quite like Charangi, but like Baliganj, like all that district, and we took over that chalk. I don't remember the name of the chalk. What was it, Iqbal? It was the central chalk in Kanpur, and we took it over for 3 nights and completely transformed it to to Calcutta Park Street during New Year's Eve, and with lights and with mountains of detail of everything from all the Bengali detail that you see, from the Dhakai saris to the flower bag to the hand-pulled rickshaws to all of that. And luckily for us, Lucknow and Kanpur has an incredible vintage car fixation. So there's so many great vintage cars available in Lucknow. So all that became a part of it. But gradually, I can talk more in detail, but Calcutta was found, which I was really thinking it could never be found in Lucknow, because we found several things. But I thought, how can we find that Art Deco bankers' flats of Calcutta from the 50s, the swinging nightclubs, the Park Street, Flurries, the Blue Fox, the Sky Room, all those sort of very jazzy kind of nightlife of what Cal used to be. But we did because essentially the key was this extraordinary home that you led us to, Aditi, the Talwar House in Lucknow, which is this extraordinary Art Deco, um, splendidly preserved and lived in home of the Talwar family, who were so amazing and just opened their doors to us. And in fact, when I met Kaku, the head of the family, uh, and I stepped out of the car, he looked at me and he said, "Hey, we are chuddy buddies. We had play dates when we were 8 years old." And I looked
Really?
and I didn't know that, but he was the neighbor of my uncle. So when I would be shipped out there, we used to play as children.
Really?
Amazing.
So it was very odd and lovely. And that house, their Talwar house, was a double set. It was upstairs was the set of Meenakshi Chatterjee and Meenakshi Mehra, Arun and Meenakshi's very anglicized, very anglicized home. And downstairs we made it into the Czech club. The Praha. They had this Bata Nagar. The whole section of the film is about the Praha, the Bata
Factory.
shoe industry, And so downstairs, and we were looking for a kind of Czech cookie cut, those kind of modern, but those distinct little Bata Nagar kind of colonies, for the employees of Bata Nagar, or in this case Brahmapur, and that we found in IIT Kanpur. Because IIT Kanpur is like very modernist kind of architecture. The staff live in very similar one by one homes, beautiful homes, in fact. So that became the Brahmapur, and the downstairs of the Talwar house became the Brahmapur Club, which was a very distinct Western club, for the employees, for the Czech employees of Brahmapur. So we found things like that. And Stephanie Carroll, our production designer, is an impeccable eye and also great knowledge of India. We have been making films in India together since Kama Sutra, which was almost 25, 30 years ago. So, one, and your book, I must tell you that Rihaish was a turning point for me. It happened to be a gift book in Libua, in the hotel that I was living in. So when I opened it, it showed me so many interiors and exteriors of people's homes in Lucknow, and that changed my entire way of looking, because I could see that this exists, very, very palpably. And I think that led us to the Prem Nivas, the main location of the Minister Kapoor's bungalow, which was Khalid Hamid's house. And it was all sort of closed down and boarded, with lots of metal blinds coming down. And I think I asked Iqbal, I asked whoever I could, about how do we, and then I think Iqbal introduced us to people who run the house for him. And then he said, Khalid Hamid, who is a famous doctor in London, he said, well, I must have you in Hampstead for dinner, before we can discuss anything. I literally went to Hampstead in London to Khalid Hamid and his wonderful wife Ghazala for their home. And in fact, his wife flew in to Lucknow for the great scenes of the concert with Tabu in their home. But we totally refurbished the home. We took away the metal blinds, we restored the garden in a very, very beautiful way. And we, of course, painted. All the fountains had to work again. Everything we did. I remember asking him if I could cut an old hedge because it took away the view of the front of the house, and he allowed me to do that. And so one thing led to another, and then our reputation spread, and people were really coming to us to say, refurbish our houses too. Please come in. Please come in. And so one thing led to other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know, because I remember going to the house that is shown as Tabu's house.
Yes.
That is in Chowk, Iqtida Khan Sahab's
Yes.
house. Itra makers in the past.
Yes.
And my utter surprise when I visited it about just before the lockdown, I think in January or so, I was amazed because it had, white tiles and the whole interior was painted white and gold. हमने कहा ये क्या हुआ? तो उसने कहा अरे ये शूटिंग हुई थी यहाँ और उसके बाद उन लोगों ने कहा जो मर्जी आप रंग बोलेंगी हम कर देंगे उसको शूटिंग खत्म होने के. So I believe the entire thing was styled by your team and in this off-white and gold. So it had a whole different look, and they were delighted that left it like that.
It was painstakingly done, and we loved Moin and his family, and they loved me. I was so grateful and surprised. I actually was just walking down that Chidiya market, bazaar, and I literally opened a door, and that door led to another door and to another door, and that revealed the Haveli, which is absolutely exquisite. Let me just and they had a bad incident 25 30 years ago with a movie, and they said we will never, the rumor was that they would never allow it for a film, but they just embraced it, and they knew my films, which I was surprised by, and anyway they just took me in. It was wonderful. But then we were working there for about 4 months. Stephanie Carroll and Dhara Jain and Mitwa Krishan, our team, and we took down the overly painted doors, stripped them of the paint, and revealed great teak wood, of the entrance doors. We took away all the linoleum, and we carpeted everything, and they even had cement partitions within the beautiful flow of the Haveli, and that was ruining the look for us, because the camera had to see through things all the time, and the cement stopped that. And they even let us take out the cement bookcase. I remember Moin's wife was saying, "Hi, shukar hai कि आपने निकाल दिया, मैंने तो सालों से मैं बोल रही थी कि निकालो." So everyone was happy, but Moin's father, he was such a dear man. He used to sit there with our workers, just looking at everything. Nothing was amiss, and loving it. We removed the Rexine. They had Rexine, and then they had these. I don't know what kind of something fake. We took them down, and it was plastic. It was plastic in the arches, and we made them real jalis in fiberglass and in real stone. So that's the other beauty of Lucknow. Iske karigar bhi hai wahan. You can get artisans and great artists to work with you to restore something. So. And the only thing they didn't like was I wanted it to be that incredible green, painted that incredible risky green. It was a world that I wanted to have that way. And they didn't love the green, but they were very easy about it and said, iski baat jo bhi hai, hum laga denge, aap bataiye. They were just wonderful, I tell you. They were like family. So when I left, we had great decor, and I remember wrapping up a huge big silk quilt and giving it to them just to thank them, for letting us invade their home. They really enjoyed the adventure, and also to have Tabu, the greatest actress really in India and the most kind woman, and very refined person. Anyway, in the home for weeks, they really do that. So. Yeah.
How many days did you shoot there in Chowk, in this house? Do you remember?
We shoot very efficiently and a lot in every day. And I think at the end of it, we were only about 12 days in the Haveli.
Okay.
Yeah, actually shooting days, but there's a lot of prep days there. A lot of preparation.
A lot of prep.
Months of preparation.
4 months of prep and 12 days of shooting.
Yeah. So how did you manage it in Chowk? I'm just very curious. Logistically. I mean, where did you park all those vans, the makeup vans and the food for the unit? Where did you do that?
That's a big key of how to make something work on location. Lydia Pilcher is an extraordinary, producer and has produced so much of my work for so many years in India. And Iqbal and everyone. I mean, people were very. We were organized. There was a hotel outside that became our catering unit. Tabu's there was no makeup trailers on this film. Tabu's makeup and hair was inside the home, and costuming as well. There was no, because if you put Tabu out in the streets of Chidiya Bazaar, you will have a in a second. So and we minimized all the production and makeup. There was no makeup trailers, so we minimized all the traffic really that came in there, because there is no room. So the crew would go to this hotel for meals and then come back, and then vans and stuff I don't really know, but it was all organized in a way that we could not stop traffic. I mean, we could not make it. A large part of this is organizing, and I don't have much to do with it. I had a wonderful team, but that was how we did it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Mira, before anything else, I think as a citizen of Lucknow, I have to say a big thank you to you for preserving Lucknow as at least the leftover heritage in celluloid forever, and bringing us to the world, Lucknow. And I don't know how long these buildings will last, but it is now preserved on celluloid, at least for future generations to see what it was all about. What I wanted to really ask you in this regard is, locations and the story. You have been a master of storytelling in this, and you've been through such a wide range of films in all kinds of cultures, whether it is Bengal or Delhi, Punjab, or wherever. How did you, what was your journey into really immersing yourself into the culture of Lucknow from the 50s, which you really portrayed so well? I mean, it is so accurate that it feels as if somebody from Lucknow has been there and done it. Could you tell us something about that, your journey into this, immersing yourself into this culture?
Thank you, Iqbal. I'm so, I really am moved by Lucknow, and I'm really moved by the absolute treasure trove it is, and how actually I'm amazed how little it is known. How little it is known. When I first, this time when I came, I spent almost 2 years now over the last 2 years, and I remember even as the race course, we had a scene in the race course, which is such a beautifully preserved race course in Lucknow in the army area that we eventually did not shoot, but it was exquisite. And the churches and the bungalows and the of course the Imambara and everything is there. That is known, but just the way you can get really from the highest to the most modest places. Kakori, I mean, look at Kakori. It's an absolute treasure, and so. Well, first I just submitted to the culture, which I love, of course, and then to all of you who guided me in different directions, and to our extraordinary team, who many of whom were local to Lucknow. Salim Kidwai helped us a lot, in just his knowledge and his love of the whole courtesan culture. Also, I remember one of the most moving things for me was to go to Begum Akhtar's, resting place, and I just, it's such a little modest. God, I'm having a modest sort of grave, but so beautiful and preserved. But hardly anyone knows it. By the way, for your citizens of this organization, you must make something much more known about Begum Akhtar's Lucknow, And anyway, so it was through learning, Iqbal, and through opening the doors and literally talking to the citizens of Lucknow and saying, "Yahan bhi aiye, wahan bhi aiye." We lived in Lebua, for instance. So across from Lebua, there were all these older homes that were all partitioned and made into several little cubicle type, apartments. But they were there; they were standing, and we went in there and we refurbished them too. For they were the Calcutta hotel where Meenakshi goes to have her affair and stuff. Because these rooms are beautiful older rooms tall ceilings, high windows, wooden balustrades. I mean, they had great detail, great tiles on the floor. So it was a question of just taking the bones, and then restoring it, getting this great Bengali bed in, and whatever we needed. But the bones are still there, and it's very sad actually to see what modern life has done to them. It's just, so that was a big part of my look, was not just the house itself, but what do you see beyond the house? What do you see into the horizons? And that was a big challenge, because like outside Khalid Hamid's house is the income tax office.
All being constructed then.
Yeah. And so anyway, so it was a lot of that. And then Banaras was very hard to approximate even in Lucknow. Or it was impossible. The Barsat Mahal, the ghats, the temple, where the romantic part of the river, really, of the Ganga. So that I had lost my heart in Maheshwar, over the Maheshwar, over the Ahilya fort and the ghats. And that became the only foray far from Lucknow, Barsat Mahal and Banaras. But otherwise, we were entirely in Lucknow, and it became our Calcutta, as well as our Lucknow. And then, of course, Mahmudabad Fort, the Killa outside, and the Kesarbagh home. We amalgamated them in our story to be like, we took rooms from the Killa, where, say, the Nawab and Mahesh Kapoor eat and talk and stuff, as if it was a city house, but actually it was the Killa house. We amalgamated them, and so on. And then the village also was between Lucknow and Mahmudabad, like Malihabad and that district became our Rudia. So it was very possible, to do such a lot of work as we did, 6 hours of cinema in very little time. I don't remember exactly the shooting days, but there would not have been more than 70 days or something like that. I can't remember, but something like that. So we do a lot of work when we have to. We in terms of the preparation is much longer and deeper than the actual shoot.
Yeah, just another thing which comes to mind, because cinema these days has really led to a lot of cities all over the world being revived for people, and an interest being generated amongst tourists and art lovers and so on to visit those cities, things people have never heard of. And Lucknow, I think, because of your film, is going to be one of those cities. What do you feel about this? Cinema being a driver to reviving a city which is actually going adrift and towards all this modernization with glass and steel and so on. Is that
I think it would be, cinema is such a populist medium, and it's such a window into that time. I think if we should use anything that can be a driver towards restoration, towards preservation, towards love, towards the usage also of these places. It's not about just seeing them as museums. It's about living them. And like, for instance, the other home that was exquisite was Noor Appa's house, Salim and Noor's home, which became Elm Villa, the boarding house in Kanpur. Again, and we didn't, and they let us in, and we just sifted their home. We just took a lot of stuff just into other rooms, and just what we showed was the more minimal, was the sparer version of their actual home. There's so many jewels like that in Lucknow. OL House is another example that we used as the Chatterjee Mansion of Calcutta. But it would be just wonderful. I hope that you could use Suitable Boy in a way to show the world has seen it now, but in terms of to show what you are living around, and what people actually have taken for granted in such a way, but also have forgotten about. I mean, Lucknow it should be a major center of architecture and tourism in that sense, but now in this COVID world, even travel and tourism seems like a foreign word. I just yearn for it. I can't tell you how much our crew and our friends, Diwali has come and gone, and last year we were in Lucknow celebrating Diwali, and and it was such a beautiful. Everyone is yearning for that time that we were all together in such places as Lucknow. But inshallah, it'll come back, and you
I
can
hope so.
take,
Very soon.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like you say, I think the important part here is that not only to preserve it, but also to use it so that it is something which is sustainable in its
Yes.
own. I
Yes.
think that is a very good point there.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think a very, very interesting thing has happened by films being shot increasingly, in
Yes.
UP now, is that, the film teams pay pretty well to use a premises, a house. And I find that is a tremendous thing. Like you said, that people are so happy to have their places restored to an extent.
Yeah.
You have at least, painting में कितना पैसा लग जाता है. Often
बहुत.
people, कितना पैसा. Imagine a huge koti like, this Mehmoodabad house or any of the others. So you pay well per day, and it's a big plus, I think, for homeowners to think, okay, next time round, maybe, this film can be shot in my house. And so I keep my place. And also, I wanted to ask you, Mira, like, this Mehmoodabad house, the Killa. I noticed this very nice, when they are eating in the scene where the Nawab and the Mahesh Kapoor, that. And in the background, there's this elaborate stained glass piece. And I was very surprised to see that. Wasn't expecting it. Was that put in by you?
No,
Or-
no. It's all there. It's all there. It's just that it's well, people don't shoot it the way we shoot it, but which is to show the depth of field and to show the grandeur. But also, I have to tell you that we spent close to 10 days just steam cleaning that home, that those rooms, just cleaning. It was not painting. We never painted there. The only place we really painted fully was Iqbal Khan's haveli. But otherwise, in these larger homes like Mahmoodabad, firstly, I embrace the decay. The decay, the way the walls the way the walls had become. That was in the Kaisarbagh house, where Shujat Khan plays the sitar concerts. Those rooms, if you look at, they are extraordinary. They're falling apart, but they're extraordinary in their decay. So there we embrace the decay. We put in loads of chandeliers that came in from Bombay and Jodhpur and so on. And of course our decor. But we embraced the decay, which was so beautiful actually in its way. But in the stained glass, I called it the tin room because it had incredible pressed tin on the walls and the ceiling in Mahmoodabad. Amazing, amazing. But really falling apart. So we spent close to 2 weeks just steam cleaning those rooms, and then we brought in the big carpets, and I think the furniture was an amalgam of the furniture that was existing there. So it was all actually there. Aditi, it was a question of sifting, cleaning, and then shooting it in a way that reveals its grandeur and its decay, both. It's extraordinary, really, the treasure there, really.
Another place which I wanted to identify, but I could not, was, this street scene. Often you see Lata on a rickshaw going past. And, was it in Kakori by any chance?
Yes, that is in Kakori. The two great masjids and that whole amazing center in Kakori. Well, there were just two masjids almost in a field. And again, the local community really took us in, and we created the field opposite the two mosques that exist, which are beautiful, into our village square, into our market square. And we did all that. We did all the shops, hundreds of shops, and everything, all the water cellars, the tongas, the vintage cars, we created the whole, that became the central street of Brahmapur in our treatment. And we did a several amount of things there, from riots to Lata and Malti walking, to buying the shoes, to this, to that. We did a lot of that became our market square.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
in Kakori. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And this Shimit,
I
who
mean,
directed.
Shimit Amin. Yes.
Yes. You are the director. Now,
Yeah.
how much, say, the direction that he was doing in Kanpur, for instance,
Yes.
did you have a say in that, in the way everything was being done there? There has to be continuity, right?
Yes, yes. No, Shimit is a very close collaborator, and we've known each other very well. He was the editor of my previous film, The Reluctant Fundamentalist, and he's a great director. Who did, as you must know, Rocket Singh and Chak De India, and he's a wonderful filmmaker. And I asked Shimit to join us. By us, I mean myself and Declan Quinn, the cinematographer, and Shimit, right from the earliest days of prep. And we designed we looked at locations together and designed all how to shoot every scene together, of the scenes that Shimit was going to do, because of our budget and because of the small amount of time we had to do so much, we had to split into 2 units, so, because of logistics, production logistics, we chose Shimit to do the shoe factory entire zone of Kanpur, because it's still 2 hours away from Lucknow. You can't go and come every day. That unit lived in Kanpur for a bit to do the shoe factories and to do that was essentially, and Brahmapur, IIT Kanpur and the shoe factories. So, but we designed it all together, and then he knew, and then he knew exactly the sensibility. So it was Shimit's beautiful, I would say, egolessness to just sort of seamlessly come into the vision that we had all basically made together, and he executed, and he did the village as well. And then we would meet in the night. I would rehearse the actors, usually in my room, with Shimit present, and then in the morning they would go off and do them, and I would go off and do what I had to do. So that was how we did it. It was like so Shimit's work is actually across several episodes, but he's credited. I wanted very much to make sure that he was regarded as the director of Suitable Boy, and so the episode 4 is given to him in a singular credit. Although we both did several things in several of the episodes, that was how we did it. But yeah, so it was very much in concert, from the actors to the actual shot design, of the main scenes, of the big scenes.
Yeah. Of course, I just want to share this with all the viewers. Mira, I hardly knew. I just knew of Mira. She was in Miranda House when my husband was in Stevens and things like that. I knew her, and of course, she's a filmmaker. And anyway, when she arrived here, when you arrived in Lucknow and I got to meet you, I remember Iqbal first took me to meet you because you all had seen my book and you wanted to meet me or something. So he said, "Chaliye bhabhi, aap milte hain." And of course, I was absolutely amazed at how grounded and how normal you are. You kind of tend to imagine, अरे वो अभी snooty होगी, बड़ी थकी आई होगी, एक हाथ में wine पी रही होगी, nothing of the sort. And then later, when the shooting started, and I played this little role, and you, not only me, I mean, you greeted me and said hello, but every actor that came along and who a bit role, the chap who was playing servant, and you went up to him and you greeted him and said, "मैं मीरा नायर हूँ और आपसे मिलके बड़ी खुशी हुई." So this quality, I think, has probably won you a lot of goodwill in Lucknow, I would say, because nobody would think, अरे हम normally बात करेंगे उसके साथ, मीरा के साथ. So like many of our viewers today, there's, I think, Jayant, I can see his question here. Jayant Krishna, he was in that scene, the tango scene.
Oh,
Jayant was dancing, yes.
हाँ, वो कोई restaurant में cabaret वाला जो होता है.
Oh,
He wasn't doing the cabaret, but
the
he was
night
dancing.
club.
I think you
Right.
shot it in Goa, didn't you? That
Swinging, yeah, the Lebua. We did
Lebua,
that in
Lebua.
Lebua. Yeah.
so Jayant, of course, is a phenomenal person himself. You know, he headed TCS and everything, and he's very interested and very rooted in Lucknow art, culture, everything. So he's asking. He said he loved the film, and it was very well made.
Yeah.
Um, but he says, was the treatment changed a bit for the Western audiences, and therefore a deliberate drift from the Indian sensibilities of the early 50s?
Well,
Was
I thank you, Jayant, and I hope you're well. And I I tried to protect it from being westernized in that sense, in the sense I think you mean. But to be very straightforward, Vikram Seth was writing about largely an anglicized and therefore westernized clientele in the Mehras, in the Chatterjees. In this was a these were the families who were still very much dreaming and thinking in English, in juxtaposition with others who were much more of the soil. So. Um, Sometimes the dialogue, I know in India people think that the actors are speaking in a overtly refined or stilted manner, but actually that was how we were taught to speak in the 50s. Our English was much cleaner, much more enunciated, much more slightly, for better or for word, the Queen's English, rather than the "come on yaar, what are you doing yaar today yaar, this kind of accent and this kind of pat English jo ho raha hai. Acha mujhe to bada acha lagta hai, but the thing is that in the 50s it was a different way of speaking, and we are not used to that anymore. We don't hear that anymore. But I was careful to actually keep that cadence and keep that tonality for certain people. Certainly Arun Mehra in the film, in the story, who really thinks he's British, even though he's never been to England. So that is something to get used to. But I cannot. And I tried very, very hard, and it was a battle with the BBC to restore our languages of the Hindi, Hindustani, Urdu back into the actual mix, because I could not believe that I would have to shoot a village with people speaking English. I would not do it. So that was something unusual for the BBC to even consider. But thankfully, Vikram Seth was a champion of it as well, and he said, I remember he said he thanked me for translating it back into the culture that it came from. So, but I had a strict quota, 20% and no more was the quota. And so we did that mix very carefully. Hriday Lani, who wrote the dialogue for Salam Bombay, did the Urdu dialogue with Rahul Chitela, and we worked very carefully with Tabu, with everyone to keep that mix and melange of language. So that was one effort. And really everywhere else I tried to remove the Englishism unless it was in the book. And actually a lot of the sentences people speak and a lot of how they say is directly from Vikram's book. So, but it is a careful, tightrope that we went on. But my desire was always to keep it truthful and to keep it real. And you mentioned about the staff, Aditi. This is because of my own training of cinema verite. I started from documentary filmmaking of cinema of truth, it was pretentiously or whatever called, living with real people, making films about them, whether it's the strippers in India Cabaret or an Indian immigrant on a subway in New York or whatever. Those were my earlier films. I love what makes a scene feel truthful. And so, as we would go into these houses, Hamid's house, or even the Talwar home, or Mahmudabad, I would always look for the actual retainers who lived there, who served there. Sometimes for generations they were there, and I would ask them to be in it. So all the staff in the film in different locations are all actually from those locations, because I believe, firstly, just the way they move, the way they enter doors, the way they know that this door creaks and not that one, is so real for me. They help me try to preserve that reality or truth. So that's something that gave me a lot of pleasure. Ramu, the head cook of the Talwar house, is like a major character in Suitable Boy. He's in every shot.
Everybody, so happy to see Ramu, and Ramu, I think, wept tears of joy.
He said, मैंने पूरी मेरी जिंदगी इसी के लिए किया है आपने मुझे it was amazing, and all he wanted was the dhoti that he wore as his costume. For me, these things are real because we never see this, Iqbal. We see the grandeur of India, but we never see the working class that make us live in that grandeur, And if you look at Suitable Boy, in every scene, actually, you will see there's some staff, some people serving and slaving for the foreground to be in silk and chiffon. And this is just something that I have grown up and seen, and it's never seen, So it was just my way of keeping it real, and trying to keep it as human and truthful as I could. Yeah.
You have a big thank you from the Awadh Heritage Car Club, Salim Khan Bhai, without a short. He says, other than the preservation of Lucknow culture, the Lucknow Heritage Car Club is very grateful.
It was a complete gift. It was a complete gift. I'm just hearing. Thanks to me, I've got a note from them just now. It was a complete gift to discover this, to discover the vintage cars and how beautifully and lovingly, really, they are not only preserved but also work. And it was because that alone could be a huge feature of why Lucknow it could be really on the map for filming, in the years to come. In fact, I am going to be returning there in a couple of years or a year for the Jungle Prince of Delhi. This another big series. About
that one. Yes.
Yeah, which probably will be partly shot in Lucknow, because
please come.
I will be coming.
Yeah.
I will definitely be coming. Yeah.
Mira, I think 9 minutes to go. I think to 7 o'clock. So maybe we should take some questions from Kes now. Do you think?
Please.
Yeah. Okay. So Kes, would you come in, please, and ask the audience's questions?
You're muted, Kes bhai. You have to unmute.
All these.
All right. So most of the questions, I think, they've been answered throughout as we hear you talk, and you have covered most of these points elaborately about what was the shoot about. People are asking what was the local influence. Are you using the artists from Lucknow? And all these questions are. So I'll quickly, what I'll do is I'll create the people who have asked the questions. I'll read out their names and also read out some of the questions that they have given.
I just wanted to say one thing about the extraordinary, actors in Lucknow.
Right.
Many of whom don't know they're actors, but they're really good actors, like Adity. But for me, again, that is jaise ada hai, jaise the speech is, all that thing. It's very important to be cast right there. And I thought that. I also heard that a lot of Hindi movies come to Lucknow, but they come with their own casts and they don't cast that much in Lucknow. For me, it was absolutely the reverse. We cast so much, in La Martiniere, in the theater groups, in so many people. We only brought some principals, the actors, but otherwise a large part of the cast was Lucknow, and actually the wonderful Yusuf. Who played Bhaskar, the little boy in Suitable Boy, was a student at Lamart's, and what an actor he is. He's just extraordinary, and so many. I would say about at least we cast 60 people in Lucknow, and it was a great joy to feel. You asked about the city's embrace. That is the way to feel the city's embrace. So somebody's asking me, Alka is asking me, Aditi was a perfect Mrs. Chatterjee. How did that casting decision come? Well, having lived in Calcutta and knowing both the elite and the communities and the ordinary. I also was very, very sure that for the Chatterjee family we had to cast. I was looking for Bengalis generally. I mean, because they have such a particular way and elan and all of that, and I also cast families to look like families. So since Shahana Goswami had already been cast, of course, as Meenakshi, I cast everyone around her to look like they could be her parents and look like. In fact, I ask always actors to bring me pictures of their actual parents so I can match, so I can see who they came from. And Aditi was a actually is married to Debu, who was an old friend of mine from Stephens. We grew up together in college, and then we met because of your book. And she just literally she struck me as somebody who would be very much of that class and of that the sparkliness that I needed, and slightly also the imperiousness. Could be haughty, could be warm, could be anything. And then we did several, I think, some readings, right? Didn't we, Aditi? And you were so
Yeah.
easy about it, and it was that. It was how you mix with us and how you become a part of the family that could actually create those two daughters. Ananya Sen, who played Kakuli, and Shahana, who played Meenakshi.
She was good. I loved her.
Yeah,
She was very good.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Who? Meenakshi. Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
the Cuckoo.
Cuckoo was fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Borunda, who's a great, your husband in the film,
Yeah.
Justice Mukherjee, is a great Satyajit Ray actor that I had loved from Pratibandhi and all of them. So we called him up, and he was very happy to lend his beautiful voice and again his stature, his class, his class. So that was how they were cast. Yeah.
All right. So his one question from Varun, and he wants to take it to the filmmaking, like we
Sure.
call about ease of doing business or filmmaking in particularly in Lucknow or in Uttar Pradesh. So what was your experience? We talk about that.
The ease of filmmaking.
Yeah. So how did you go about it, and procedures or any compliances that have to be made or permissions that are required?
Of course, I mean, filmmaking is a series of permissions, and but again, Lydia Pilcher, who ran the show, and we had Iqbal Kidwai, who has worked with me on Monsoon Wedding and several films, so we're very much in the know of what is required. But I would say generally we found complete cooperation, and we found even delicate things, like filming in front of Kakori Mosque, and we had to create a temple there. Like, it was a sensitive issue, but step by step, working really with the local community, never going, always respecting where you are is a very important thing. And I think our reputation for really serving the people well and serving the locations that we had taken on with great care helped us a lot in this. But we never confronted any serious blocks. In fact, I felt so amazed and relieved that December 17th we stopped shooting. We ended our shoot and moved to Maheshwar. And December 19th was when the protests began against the CAA and all of that in Lucknow. And so much violence happened. One of our great actresses, Sadaf Jafar, who played Bibbo who played Tabu's right hand in Suitable Boy, was arrested for peaceful protest on the 19th of December, and it was almost a different Lucknow. We had not encountered that kind of public protest while we were shooting. So we just Gali se nikal aaye hum, but it was a very tough time that happened in Lucknow soon after our shoot.
Okay, so here is something from Grace Arun, and I just want to read it out. She says, "Ma'am, so which of many intriguing moments did you relate to or enjoy the most while shooting in Lucknow? You have spoken about it, but if there's something else you can add on."
Oy. Um, um, I mean, for me, there is nothing more enriching and moving than being in the real places with the people who have lived the life and the culture that we are trying to evoke on screen. So just being, for instance, in Moin's home in the Haveli in Chiria Bazar for weeks on end, and their kitchens open to us, they're uh, treating us really like one of the family. It was very, very heartening, and makes me feel that I'm breathing the same air of the story that I am trying to tell. I would also say that in Libua, the kind of incredible humanity and hospitality that all aspects of our film crew and actors and ourselves received for months and months, like 6-7 months, where we felt really like this was our home, was something you don't get anywhere in the world. You just don't get it. And for me, the bird song in Lucknow is what kept me going, because I love. For me, nature is the best healer, and that to just be surrounded by bird song. It's an odd thing to tell you, but for me it kept me going, because again, you usually, when you make movies, you can create worlds, but you're living in these cinder blocks of hotels that just keep you isolated. But Lucknow, it was porous. It was all out. It was everywhere. People took us in, and every whatever we wanted to look at, it's really got that old world, gorgeous, the simplicity of the 50s. You don't get that really anywhere. And I really pray that you, as the citizens of Lucknow, preserve this and have it for us, for the world and for our own people to know where we came from.
Our own people, absolutely.
Yeah, our own people.
Yeah, I have a quick question for you. This is nothing to do with Lucknow. I saw one of your films, Queen of Kidwai.
Yeah.
That was based in Uganda,
Yeah.
and it was a subject about this very ordinary girl, African girl who makes it, in the chess world.
Yeah.
You made that, and then you made this remarkable film on these immigrants from Mexico.
Cuba.
I forget the name.
The Perez family. Yeah.
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 So you're Indian. I can imagine that your sensibility. You work here. Now, how do you translate it? I mean, you never lived in Cuba, for instance, and
Yeah.
you weren't at the border, which made
Yeah.
this remarkably evocative film in both cases. If you haven't seen it, all of you really must see it to see how what a feel that has. How do you do that? How do you get into
Thank you. Well, actually, it's my training in cinema verite. It's my training. I came from hardcore documentaries where I go and live with people, literally as the lives that they are living, and see the world from inside, and to have people allow me to have their camera on them. It's about trust. It's about humility. It's about respect, actually, and that I have. That is the bread and butter of my creative work. Is how to observe, how to be in with people, how to really look at the culture, not as something outside me, but how to enter it. So with the Perez family, it's about. I mean, I've always been inspired by Cuba and the extreme, incredible resilience of Cuban people. In fact, it's very much like the Punjabi spirit. कि tragedy bhi aa jao, we'll hasenge hum. Because it's that type of dil wale types. There's a common sensibility I felt. In any case, so again, it was with Perez family. We went to Cuba for weeks, and I really tried to do the same thing we did in Lucknow. Breathe the air that the people that I'm trying to tell about do. Study like almost a social scientist, actually. Just enter into the sociology of the place, and then the humanity of the place, and then with a great team of people, and it's a lot of artistry, I suppose. Like even the sensibility of their art and their dance and whatever it is, you absorb all that, and then you begin to create a universe in the film. Queen of Kidwai is set in my own hometown, where I've lived for 30 years in Kampala, Uganda. And I have longed. I made my second film there, Mississippi Masala, which is, by the way, going to be re-released next year. It's a 30-year-old film with Denzel Washington and Sarita Chowdhury. Very much, Kamala Harris now is our vice president here, and she's very much the child of Mississippi Masala. So it's about time that film comes back. But I had made that in 1990, and Queen of Katwe was like 30 years later of living in Kampala. And I wanted to make a film that was about the reality of where I lived. And so Queen of Katwe was easier in the sense that it's really 15 minutes from my home. I know the streets of Katwe. I love the style. I love the vibrancy. And I also understand the humor and again, the resilience of our people there. And so all that contributes, to making something feel real. And my yardstick is actually like Suitable Boy is Lucknowis. I want you all to think that this is real, not for the Firangs or not for everyone to think that this is real. So similarly in Queen of Katwe, it's for the streets, it's for the kids of Katwe to say, yeah, this is my life, I'll show you my life, So for me, that yardstick is important. It's not for Cannes Film Festival. It's not for the Oscars. It's for you and me who live there. That's why Ramu is in Suitable Boy. That is why all of you are in Suitable Boy. Because it feels right. It feels correct, Yeah. Thank you, Jayant, for your lovely note. Yeah.
Is there anything, I don't know if anybody, if the powers, if the authorities here are listening or whatever, but this is for anybody's benefit who can absorb it. After having shot for those 4 months in Lucknow, what do you see you could get more out of Lucknow? By way of permits, what do you think is easier for you to shoot again in Lucknow that you didn't get the last time, that you would like to see? Is there anything?
Well, I think actually the policy on Lucknow for films is pretty progressive, in terms of the tax benefits, in terms of all those things that is why you see so many films from Bombay being shot in Lucknow, is because of the incentives. But I think that we were denied those incentives, right, Iqbal, because we were a television series and not a film. So if anything, and now that television series are really becoming the vocabulary of cinema for most of us, because the theatrical distribution is so deeply affected by COVID. I think it would be great if the tax incentives could also exist for television series coming into Lucknow, and not just feature films. That would help a lot. And also I think that there was another stipulation, if I recall, about language. I think it had to be in Hindustani, and not English was not allowed for any kind of.
English was there, but there was a slightly different
categories. Yeah. So I think that it would be great if it could be much more wide opened for any language to come to Lucknow, because really Lucknow is a treasure, and I think Suitable Boy has shown you the volume of the treasure. It's literally from streets to minarets in the sky to bungalows to forts to great sort of mango groves to to the Ganges. It's everything. And so I think if language could be removed, if language could also not be a stipulation, then it could also be opened for the rest of the world. But more importantly, really, is to keep our homes, to keep our streets, to keep our places alive and porous to the cameras and to the world, really. But I know it is all there, and it would kill me to hear that the bungalow has been destroyed to have another income tax office, really, because we'll never see that again.
No.
I really, but such is life. Yeah.
Okay, can I extend it a bit further? So if we talk about production support, for example, when filmmakers come in, they bring in their crew. But what is the kind of local support when you are looking for production support? Is there something that can be done locally, can be done better?
Um, you know, we had a lot of support. I mean, I, in a sense of casting teams, there was already a wonderful casting department that we could piggyback with and say, okay, because the extras, the people in the streets, all had to be found and all had to be, their hair had to be cut, their costumes had to be put. I mean, it was all a very organized affair, and I remember the local casting departments were very, very effective. I think just to make those systems perhaps more organized would help. You know, but I'm not really the producer for a good reason. I'm the director, so I I just inherit all the help that people do for me.
Why I'm asking this is because UP is focusing on getting a film city done, and soon there would be a lot of talent coming up, and there'll be a lot of people, and from the production side also, you'll have lots of people coming up. So, what are the avenues for them working with the Bombay industry?
Kes, if you don't mind, I'm not sort of the best person to ask for that. Yeah, thank you.
इकबाल को पूछिए, इकबाल को, इकबाल बताएंगे.
Iqbal is the guy above
Yeah,
you.
but there's lots of very good production people in Lucknow who do a lot of help, especially in locations and management of locations.
Absolutely.
They're doing a good job. They did a great job on Suitable Boy also, working along with Jar Productions, the Bombay team. They worked
Exactly.
along with them, and they did a great job. There's some
had a
great
wonderful
people, and they're doing a lot of wonderful work for people coming from Bombay to work here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we should wind up. So Mona, can
Yeah,
you
right.
hear? Oh, we don't want to let you go, Mira.
बनाना है मुझे बनाना है.
Thank you, Mira. Thank you so much for sparing so much time, and that too early in the morning
I
in New
know.
York.
It's 5:03 a.m. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Veera. Thank you.
And please, Lucknow, keep your doors and mouth wide open. I am coming back.
Absolutely,
Yes.
looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I just want to close it with this note. Thank you so much, Mira, for being with us and spending a good amount of time with us and answering all the questions patiently. What we take away from this is that Citizens for Lucknow has a long way to go in preserving various good properties that we have and kind of creating awareness with people who are living in such properties.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, you said the bird song should be retained. So yes, we should plant more trees so that we have more birds around us.
Amazing.
So we'll keep that. Yeah, we take this away from here, and we hope to welcome you back in Lucknow when you come back for your next venture. Thank you so much again.
Thank you
everyone
so
for
much.
coming in, all the viewers for coming in here. Thank you so
Until
much.
we meet again.
Yeah, surely.
Very soon.
Very soon.
Thank you.
Inshallah. Bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
everyone.
Bye.
So much